Everyone, Stich here, and I'm just introducing another episode of Stich and Company with Scotty Zwang, who is the drummer for the band Ghostlight. So I just want to give you a quick little preface before we get into it. I had heard Ghostlight on Sirius XM radio several months ago, and every time they came on, I listened to them. I didn't know who they were, but I thought they were really good at what they do. And then with a conversation with my friend a couple weeks ago, it turns out that I actually kind of knew the drummer from 2 decades ago. Kind of. And so we got in touch, and it was really fun to actually, I guess, meet each other for the first time, even though we knew about each other, and discuss the jam band Ghostlight, which I really do enjoy. Now, the members of Ghostlight not only are Scotty Zwang, but also some 2 heavy hitters in the jam band world, which are Tom Hamilton and Holly Bowling, with some names that you might be familiar with. And the other members are absolutely amazing, which are Marina and Dan. And I talk about all of them in this podcast with Scotty, and we talk about practicing, what it takes to be in a jam band, the schedule, what it's like as a drummer to work with guitar players and everything, what their roles are. And it was quite a fun conversation. So if you want to go behind the scenes of a touring jam band that really has earned my respect, and maybe even yours or will in the future, check out this episode of Stich and Co. with Scotty Zwang of Ghostlight. I hope you enjoy it. It was a fun time. Scotty, thank you so much for hanging with me, and hopefully I'll see you again. All right, guys, here's the interview. Bye-bye. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with none other than Scotty Zwang. Now, the reason I'm chuckling is we did this before, right? We did this, and because StichMethod is so amateur hour that something went wrong, so we're going to be redoing it. I have a whole new set of questions and new enthusiasm, so I want to thank you not only for coming the first time, Scotty, but the second time to do this, so thank you so much.
My pleasure. No problem. I got nothing but time now.
This is great. So, first and foremost, I want to talk to you, the fans of StichMethod, why you're here. Scotty, you are an amazing drummer. I love your sound. I'm going to tell the story very briefly. I had heard of Ghostlight on Jam on Sirius XM, and I didn't know that, you were in it, and we'll talk about how we know each other, but the first thing I noticed right away, I'm like, oh, the drummer's got it going. I was like, that drummer's got it going, and the rest of the band was actually spectacular as well, and it really hooked me in. And then when I found out you were in it, I was like, this is like amazing. So we're going to talk about you and Ghostlight, but let's just briefly talk about how you and I know each other. You go first. You tell your story.
Well, when I was about 13 years, it's about 20 years ago, let's just call it 20 years, my older brother and his friends were, some of them were more into Fish and the jam band scene. My brother was like kind of getting into it around then, and our father was listening to Fish, so we kind of already knew who they were. And they were introducing them to all these new jam bands because their older brothers were in this band, Something Good, and it was your band, and I had heard so much about this guitar player, and everyone's like, Stich, he's the man, he's the best guitarist, you gotta check him out.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
I was too young to go to the Funky Fish shows.
Oh, the Funky Fish, yeah.
The Funky Fish.
Absolutely.
Although later in my life, I did a lot of shows there, but before it closed down.
Oh, wow.
And it took a while, but I was always listening to this record, and then myself, I later got really into the jam band scene. Obviously now I kind of work it full-time in it. But unfortunately, we never actually got to meet, and I never got to see the band.
Right.
But we're here anyway.
You're right. And so I'll tell that's right. So he knew of my very first jam band, which was called Something Good, and we didn't exist for a long time, but obviously it had an impact on this young boy in Long Island, which was fantastic. But I knew you because you were the younger brother of a mutual friend of mine, Adam. And Adam, in the family, it's funny because I knew your name. He had talked about Scotty, and I just remember your brother singing at parties. And your brother is a phenomenal singer. Brother, does he still sing? Is he a professional singer?
He does some stuff. He has taken the family route.
Nice.
And he's a teacher.
Nice.
So he teaches for New York City school system.
Fantastic.
And he does wedding gigs, and he actually does really well with that stuff as well. But we just took very different paths in music.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
what I do is not for everyone.
No, it's not. But we're going to talk about what you do. But even though I'm sure he'll see this, please tell Adam I do say hello.
Yes.
And so let's get right into it. Now, I don't want to make you blush too much, but I'm very, very particular about drummers. I think that the drummer does in fact make the band, and a lot of StichMethod people or fans are wondering, well, why are we having Scotty Zwang on here? And I'll tell you guys why in a second. The camera's over there for me. The drummer makes the band, and Scotty, when I heard your chops, your pocket is phenomenal. It is I want to give it like an adjective. It is gooey. It is stewy. It is thick. It's behind the beat like a I don't know. It's just awesome, and I love listening to your drumming, and it definitely is what captured me. And the first question I'll ask you, because I want to make it pertinent to my channel, which is, first of all, how many hours a day or how many minutes a day when you started practicing? Like how much did you practice playing drums?
A lot. I mean, in the early years, I mean, I started playing when I was 8,
Yep.
so or around there. Me and my dad argue with this all the time, but I'm pretty sure he got me a drum set when I turned or after my 8th birthday.
That's great.
And you know, I'd play here or there. I'd feel like the first year was a little rough. I'm sure. Well, for me it was. I'm sure even more so for the other people in my house.
Of course.
And then I started really connecting with it and realizing that I could play to various songs and some of my favorite artists, which at the time I was just getting into Sublime. Their self-titled album had just came out, and Bradley had just passed away, and it was all over the news. I was starting to find my own voice in music. Also, that movie, That Thing You Do, came out, and I was obsessed with their drummer, Shades.
Wait, the Wonders?
The Wonders, the Oneaters.
The Oneaters, yeah.
And actually, the first performance I ever did at my 5th grade talent show was I dressed up as Shades, and I did That Thing You Do. And I think that's where I got my first taste of, like, I'm going to do this for a living.
Okay, awesome. So what I want to say is, you know, a lot of people, I think, I tell my students a lot that the worst invention for musicians, let me explain, is the light switch. Because we want something, we turn it on, and it's there. Like, it's instant. What they don't understand is musicians, like all of us, the ones who are dedicated to it, practice and practice and practice. And what you see on stage is the culmination of thousands of hours put into a very fine, precise moment. And it's an illusion. A lot of people, I feel like, and everyone says, yeah. And on the internet, you find like, oh, you know, take this 2-hour shortcut. And it's like, no, not at all.
There are no shortcuts, like most things in life.
Yes.
They say it takes 10,000 hours to become professional at anything, and I would have to agree.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, once I found my rhythm, quite literally, I was practicing a lot, as much as I could. I'd come home from school, I'd throw on record, my headphones, and I'd play away. As time went on, you know, especially in high school, like all throughout middle school, I played a lot of music. And then high school kind of continued. By the time I was old enough to like start, you know, hanging out with friends that were driving and doing things I probably shouldn't have been doing. I probably wasn't practicing nearly as much, but by the time I graduated from high school, I was practicing a lot, and I was playing with a band in Long Island, and we had a rehearsal space. And because of my life with work and stuff, or really being able to pick my own hours, my dad was nice enough to let me work at his doctor's office.
Oh, nice.
So when I wasn't working, I literally would practice 8 hours a day.
Oh, see, that's phenomenal. So I want everyone to hear that. I love this guy's drumming. He's in an awesome jam band right now, and I believe that you're having the time of your life in this particular jam band. And it all comes down to, I mean, there are moments of connections in the world that link people up to each other, but you're not going to get there unless you practice. So let that be said. Now, I want to get into Ghostlight with you. Okay, first
Sure.
of all, my dad is a Trivial Pursuit master. Right? You don't, like when he says you want to play Trivial Pursuit, everyone clears out because you know you're going to lose. And I have a touch of that. And I knew the name Ghostlight was a reference to the actual light that theaters leave on at night to keep away the evil spirits. And actually, my first workshop I had down here, there was a ghost light on the stage, and it's before I heard of you, and I was like, oh, Ghostlight, cool. And then like a week later, I heard of you. Anyway, so it was meant to happen. But I want to talk about this band. Now, there's many things I want to say, but first, let's just. I never mentioned this to you. It is every jam band has a space of their own, and when you hear the space of their own, you think that like, okay, they've backed themselves into this corner where they have to kind of sound like this, and what I mean by that is like when you think about the jam band world, there's some big kingpins. You got the Grateful Dead. You have Fish. You know, even the Allman Brothers being a jam band. You have these kings of jam bands. And when I heard Ghostlight, what I loved the most about it, and this is not, how do I explain this? This is pure admiration here. It was as if the Grateful Dead, Fish, Wilco, the Tedeschi Trucks Band all had a baby and named it Ghostlight.
Well, that is a beautiful combination there.
Yeah, but do you get that? I mean, like you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we come from a jam band background, and as much as like it's kind of a not taboo, but like it's definitely one of those words that, you know, at a certain point in the jam band scene, especially with our writing style of music, it's like, ooh, jam band. It's kind of like in a way, it's like, oh, they're just a jam band. But I mean, we play a lot of improvisation, and ultimately, no matter what our sound is, and those like Wilco or
Americana,
alternative indie rock references and influences come from, we are a jam band in the fact that we do a lot of improvisation
around structured songs, and which is awesome. And the songs have meaning.
The songwriting is not jam bandy songwriting at all. In fact, we kind of try to steer away from it as much as we can. But the show experience is very much a jam band show.
It is. We were just talking about the influences of Ghostlight. Now, I do want to say this. Besides everything that's going on, there's so much to talk about in Ghostlight that I want people who haven't heard your music to really listen to. One thing I used to do when I was a kid, when I was getting into Led Zeppelin and getting into Fish, I would listen to the same album however many times there were members in the band. So in Led Zeppelin there were 4, and I would listen to just John Bonham, the entire album, then just Jimmy Page, and then just John Paul Jones, you know, and get a feel for all the musicians. I mean, you can't get enough of that music when it's your favorite. And so it trained my ear. Same thing with Fish. You know, I'd listen to the album Rift, which is one of my favorite albums of all time, and I listened to every single player over and over again just to get a feel for where they are getting off, or how they wrote those parts and where they came from. And so when I listen to jam band music, and it's nothing special, it's just my perspective is always kind of this broad perspective where my ears are trying to focus in on all the frequencies of everything. And again, your drumming caught me first. Holly's piano playing is outstanding. We can talk about, of course, Raina's songwriting and what she does, we're going to talk about. But one thing I love about Tom Hamilton's playing really quickly is like he has this, I hopefully get a chance to talk to him one day, but he has this pedal that makes his guitar go like sonic reverb, but not too, like it's like this soaring thing, and I'm like, that's the sound I want. So I'm just letting you know, like that was another thing that caught me, is when you, in your jams and all, there's a section in some of your jams where they just elevate. It's like...
It might be his custom pedal.
Oh, of course, that's what it's going to be.
He works with a company. I'm forgetting, or a guy more specifically. I'm forgetting his name. I think in like the Mid-Atlantic, DC kind of area, who has built him pedals over the years, and now they actually have like fancy custom-made photos of the Tom Hamilton cat. It's like a little kitten with like his hat and mustache.
Okay, so Ghostlight, your current project, and I really really have an admiration for you guys as a working group, and I just kind of want to go over everybody's space in that band. For the fans of StichMethod, mostly 99% are guitar players. I know I have one flute player, Mike. What's up, Mike? Give me a shout out. Who watches for the theory, but the role of musicians in the band, I think, is something every guitar player has to prepare themselves for. When I am teaching guitar, I say, listen, like, when it's like learning to drive. You get in the car and you're on your own street and your mom's sitting next to you ready to like hit the brake for you. And as you get better, then you got to go on a main road that has 2 lanes, and then you got to learn how to turn left, and then you got to go on a highway that has 4 or 5 lanes, and you got to work from the right-hand lane eventually over to the left-hand lane. And when you're practicing, you have to have enough attention to yourself, but then you have to take that attention that you have of yourself, put it in a little compartment in your head, and then open up your attention to the world around you, to the lanes around you. And I find that when I listen to Ghostlight, you can tell that everybody is driving their own car, but very, very aware of the roads and the path and the speed and the world around them, and you can really hear it in your jamming. So let's talk about first, like, how I would layer a band from rhythm section to the lead section, quote unquote. You, Scotty, are the drum section. Your drumming is outstanding. You have a really good fundamental low end that I love between your kicks and your toms and your snares, and your accents on your cymbals and everything really make you a very like up and down dynamic drummer. You're stacked, and I love that type of drummer. But enough about you. Okay, let's talk about your bass player. Your current bass player's name is Dave. No, Dave. Dan. Making sure you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Good, Dan. What I enjoy about Dan's playing, and I want you to talk about this, is he's not the standard just pop in the bass note where the kick drum is. He's dynamic and he moves, but he's a glue to your drumming and the music, but it's not predictable, I would say. But I'll stop talking because this is about what you think of your bass player right now. Go ahead.
I mean, Dan is incredible. We've only been playing with him now for, I wanted to say 8 months, but it's actually probably been more like 6 months. And he just kind of fit in right away. He came to rehearsals. We needed a new bass player. Yeah. And he came highly recommended. And when we met up, he like had charts and he was prepared with all the songs. He learned something like 24 songs in like what I think was a week. Wow. You know, yeah, it was really, you know, like obviously he had charts, so it was there, but super solid. You know, I found out about him from my old bass player from Dopapod. They went to college together, Berklee College of Music. And so he's got that Berklee student mentality where like he's a serious player, but he knows what he's doing. He knows the theory behind it. He's also been playing his instrument in various bands before he was in our band. He has a band, Elephant Wrecking Ball, and he was also in this pretty legendary, at least in my eyes, and within the jam band reggae scene, band John Brown's Body.
Whoa.
Yeah, you probably play with them a lot.
Hold on.
Creation.
Hold on, time out. How long was he the bass player for John Brown's Body?
When you were touring with them, I think they still had Nate Edgar on bass.
Oh, wow.
If not their original bass player.
Did Nate pass away?
The original guy, and then Nate replaced him. Nate's also incredible guy. Check out his band, Nth Power. So good.
Wow.
And then when Nate left, they got Dan. I don't know when that was, but I feel like he had been with them for at least the last 5 years, and then they kind of stopped touring.
Well, that says a lot. That's probably why I do like his bass playing, because the reggae bass, you know, and from what I told, you know, the bass line in reggae is the lead instrument, and it's thunderous and it's powerful. And I guess that he does have those moments, but he also, I guess, the freedom of Ghostlight lets him move around more, and so I think he appreciates it more.
Yeah, I mean, we try to not have rules per se when we're playing, but the biggest thing is that we're not a funk band or in the same reggae sense where like you have a pulse and you kind of you're in it and you're driving this thing, and not that my role or the bassist role isn't to drive it still, but we have a lot more freedom. There's more than you can do than just staying on the low end, or me just staying in like the bread and butter of the, you know, kick, snare, hi-hat kind of grooves and us linking up. Like there is a freedom and independence of trying to make,
Wow.
two unlike things mesh together.
And you can hear it. I really do appreciate the dance that you and him play. I'll categorize you guys as the rhythm section, but on the leading edge of the rhythm section is Marina, your songwriter, one of the songwriters.
Yes.
Incredibly talented guitar player in terms of she writes a song. She writes a song. She'll write the melodies of the vocals and everything. And you guys start jamming, and I've watched her on videos. She's watching everyone, looking at looking at the chords being played, hearing the chords being played, filling these spaces that are hard to hear. And hopefully, if she watches this interview, great job. It is hard. It is hard to fill the spaces of a jam with things that disappear, and it's a compliment when you. I guess the term I'm looking for is the emulsifier. She really can blend the rhythm section and lead section with these chord voicings and her rhythm in ways that, like, it's like the Bob Weir effect. If you can play and somebody goes, "Well, I can barely hear them playing," it's not a Vine thing. It means you are mixing into that music so well, and you're not creating chaos. You're creating a feather bed for everyone to play in. And kudos to Marina, and she plays this. Somebody say this really cool green guitar. What do you know the brand? The brand?
It's a D'Angelico.
It's a D'Angelico. Oh my God, it is a D'Angelico. That's what I figured. My friend Sean has one.
It's a very nice guitar. Very big green guitar.
Yeah, I contacted them and I totally messed up. Like it was like, "Hey, I'm gonna meet Bob Weir. Send me one of your guitars," and they were like, "No," and I was like, "Damn it." And so I think I ruined my relationship with D'Angelico.
You know what? You can make it up to them when you're at lock-in next week or whatever. They're usually there.
Oh, they are? Okay, cool. I'll be like, "Hey, I'm the guy. I'm the idiot." All right, cool. That's awesome. All right, so now we get into we talk about Marina, and I really do appreciate her role in Ghostlight. And then we get to Holly. All right, and
yeah.
All right, now listen, man. She's super talented. She is amazing. And we all know it from her Fish and Dead piano concerts that she does. Famous for the Tahoe Tweezer rendition, which, when you think about it, is like incredible. I mean, I sit and I do videos on my YouTube channel, and it takes me like days just to get like a half-minute phrase down, But she's amazing, and I want to say that when I listen to her, it is so apparent that she is not trying. She naturally knows where to take her piano lines to sink into the pocket where she should be, and how to grab the reins of this horse known as Ghostlight and create this melody, create these jams that sound like as if they're written, which they're not. She's really strong at these melody creations and holding her own. I really appreciate her efforts in the band. I think that a lot of people need to listen to Holly's role in Ghostlight. So I'll stop talking. What do you have to say about this?
I have to agree, first off. Also, I mean, it goes down to practicing and the years experience it takes. She's been playing piano for a really long time.
Right.
She studied piano. I don't know exactly where or how she went about it, but she studied for a long time. Yeah. She was a piano teacher for a long time before she did the Tahoe Tweezer thing and started getting out and playing more. And she also has perfect pitch, so she can hear a note or a melody, and she knows exactly what is happening. So it makes it that much easier if you have a relationship with your instrument to know it pretty much inside and out. If you can hear something, playing it back becomes, not that it's easy, but that much easier where, I'm sure it took her a really long time, but you can transcribe and arrange a 32-minute jam.
Right. Okay, so now, let's talk about this perfect pitch thing, okay? No, take no offense to what I'm about to say, but you have it easy, I believe, working with a musician who has perfect pitch, because you're in the percussion section. When I have worked with musicians, from Alan Gilman of a Grateful Dead tribute band and a guitarist I knew, whenever I played around them, I would get so nervous because I feel like they'd be like, "Dah!" And I'd be like, "Yeah, you're right, I hit the wrong note." I'm not saying that happens, but do the other instrumentalists in the band, or that's not an insult to you, but like the bass player and
they have a melodic role that I cannot necessarily fill. I mean, I have toms that are tuned somewhat melodically, but I am a rhythm, and I don't take any offense.
But do they ever feel pressureful with Holly's ear, like on them, or are they? Like, do they ever go like, "Hey, Holly, did you hear me not hit that flat 7?" Like, is that conversation ever happened? Like
no, because Holly also really likes when tension is built.
Oh, fantastic!
And usually, when tension is built, I could be wrong here. I'm the rhythm section guy, but it usually can come from what sounds like a wrong note. So when that happens, we're able to get into this dark, weird space that we really enjoy being in, and I hope that the audience does, because it's not necessarily major as far as scales go, and very happy kind of. It's very dark at times, and
I'm good. I'm just saying, if you ever need an auxiliary guitar player that will hit wrong notes, let me know. I'll step in with you, because that's good. All right, we're back. Had to take another quick break, not overload any video equipment here. We just finished up talking about Holly, and again, if I ever get a chance to meet Holly, I will gush all over her playing and her skills. I think that, for me, if I ever imagine being in a band, it just must be so awesome to be surrounded with people who are so super talented and care for the music, and again, like, from your perspective, my perspective, want to have you there. It's a compliment, to be in that situation. So now let's get to the man behind the curtain, Tom Hamilton. Okay, and the reason I say that is because he's a juggernaut right now in the jam band scene. He's everywhere. I mean, you can't go onto like Jambase or Relics or anything without seeing a picture of Tom or hearing something about him. And I think it's just fascinating that A, you're in a band with him, and B, that he is just a super confident lead guitar player. Also, he's a songwriter in the band. He writes a lot of songs with Marina. So you have this songwriter who could probably write the song with an acoustic guitar, get the feeling of it, bring it to the band with now his electric plugged in, and start jamming. And what I love about his playing is he is free as a bird, but at the same time you can tell he's very, very conscious about everyone in that band. Not hey, follow me, not a dictatorship. He's conscious of everyone in the band working together, smiling. Are we hearing each other? You can see it. You can see it in Ghostlight on stage. And it's so appreciative. There are many jam bands out there where the lead guitar player will go, and it's this, hey, follow me, boys. And it's like, but I don't know where you're going. I don't know what's happening, And so I'll stop talking. What's it like working with Tom, knowing Tom? How'd you know him? Floor is yours.
Well, I've known Tom now for about 10 years or so.
Oh, wowzer.
And what was that?
I said, wow, I didn't realize you guys knew each other that long.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to be friends, a coworker, a fellow bandmate in other projects, and just overall a big fan for years of the Disco Biscuits guys. And being that Tom's from Philly and they're from Philly, they have a long history together. Plus, he's played with them a lot, and he's been in other side projects with them since the early 2000s. So I kind of met him through them in about 2009 or 10. Wow. And Tom is an incredible guitar player. He's got so much experience, and same as a songwriter and even vocalist too. He has so much experience doing this, about 25 years of, writing songs, playing guitar, doing, all of this. So he's a great leader in the sense that A, he's got so much experience and a lot of knowledge to share, but also he does let us do our own thing. He's not a dictator as a leader, but if we need some leadership or even dictatorship at times, he's there to fill that role, and he's good at doing that. But it's not like he forces himself into that role, as much as he did also put this thing together for us. So, at least it was his kind of baby and idea to start a new band and not have he's got J-Rad, which is incredible.
Right.
And although they do a very unique spin on Grateful Dead's music, especially the improv and like their background, they do it with class and in a way that is very unique.
Right, but it's
still a cover band.
And he wants something of his own. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Of course, absolutely. So go ahead.
No, so he's just he's a really good dude. I've known him for a while, and I'm very happy that he had me in mind to do this. It also kind of worked out great that I was just moving to Philly, and yeah, I mean,
that's great. That's awesome. No, I think it's amazing the way the world works. I'm going to ask you two questions, and I hope I just don't forget. Sure. Number one, again, for the guitarist of StichMethod, because you've known Tom for 10 years and you're band with him, I do believe you have a psychic connection with him. So if you can ask him right now, how much did he practice when he was a kid? Would the answer be a lot?
A lot. So Tom was fortunate that for a really long time, living here in Philly, he was born and raised and has been here his whole life for the most part. He worked at a bowling alley, and the owner of the bowling alley or his manager or whatever loved that he played guitar and supported it. So Tom would bring his guitar. I believe he was like the lane repair guy. So how often do those things break? I know more often than most people would think, but like he also had a lot of time to just sit there and play guitar all of the time and work on his craft.
But something that I found very special also about Ghostlight, and this is all about you, Scotty, is you keep the groove going. You don't let it die. And I'm not saying in any way that the other bandmates are letting it die. What it is, it's kind of like they know, hey, there's a confidence in the band's ability to jam because they know that Scotty Z is always going to be there riding that beat just a little bit if he needs to, not letting the band fall apart. And you're always there. And there are so many jams I heard with Ghostlight where it gets quiet and you're keeping the pulse going, and it lets everybody have a new germination period and a new birth out of that jam. And I really appreciate your ability to do that and not let it just die like in some jam bands. I'm not saying keep it ferocious. You guys play with dynamics. You guys do play with speed. But your drumming style really holds those moments together, and it's much appreciated. Just to let you know.
Well, first off, thank you. I try to find a good balance of it. I'm the drummer, and it's my job to keep the train rolling.
Yeah.
In a sense, if someone hits a wrong note, you may catch it. If I hit and have a flub, it's not so big. But if I completely botch something, it's going to go notice that, we're kind of falling apart.
Yeah.
So it's kind of my job to keep it going. But there are times, too, to let other people shine and give opportunity to not only let, maybe Tom and Holly, or sometimes, Dan and whoever it might be, to shine and interact without having this pulse driving and directing it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I find my job is to, or a drummer's job in general, is to kind of keep the train going. People, for the most part, depending on what kind of music you're playing and what your vibe you're trying to put out is, they're going to have a good time, they're going to dance, and you want a variety, but ultimately you want to make sure that everyone is enjoying themselves and not getting bored, feeling like I'm gonna go pee or grab a drink or get away.
You guys do a fine job of that, and you can tell you care. Now I'm gonna ask you a really weird question.
Sure.
I always wonder, people in 2000 BC or whatever.
Okay.
Did they know they were ancient people? They didn't. They were living in modern times, right? To them it was modern. To us, they're ancient. So you never know. The point is you never know where you are in history. You really don't know. You like to think you're on the leading edge, but 3,000 years from now, oh my God, they use these things called computers, and there was this thing called, you never know how ancient we're going to be. And I bring that up by saying, how do you feel about Ghostlight? As in, where do you feel in history you are? Do you feel that you all have found something that's refreshing and new, and you feel like the tightness of the group is getting better and better and better, and you're here to stay for a while? I mean, what's the mentality right now between you guys?
I think we were put in a very unique situation, given that we all have some form of a background doing, playing music for a living and having various projects, and we've been fortunate in that, some longer than others. And because of that, I feel like we're and especially having a new bassist that's only been in the band for 6 months. Yeah. This last tour, I think we all felt that not only were we really getting to the good stuff, but that we've got a lot more to do and achieve, and that we are going to be here for a while, and we're very, very fortunate to do what we do. We try really hard and not that it's that hard to do, but to take advantage of the fact or for granted what we get to do. Right. So I don't know where we fit in history. Yeah. I know that we're having a blast doing what we're doing and have no intentions of stopping anytime soon.
Right.
And that it seems everyone has a similar response to what you were saying, that this feels refreshing. This feels like something different and new. And if that's what they're feeling, then that is great. I know that all that we're doing and all that really everyone does in music is you learn from the people you aspire to be and that you look up to, and learning how to play this song, studying this person, various genres, all of these things all come together to make you and unique. So I hope that we continue to do that, and we're not going to slow down anytime too soon.
Great. All right, so we're gonna. One thing you don't know about this is I love planes, and all my references when I teach about planes, landing, and gear and stuff. So we're gonna start our final descent out of this video podcast and let you live your day without me holding you hostage. I want to take advantage of having a professional drummer here, one who has been in multiple bands, who has been in the jam band scene for a while, and you are confident in your role. And I just want to ask you for words of wisdom for the guitar players in the jam band world. Let's talk like realities versus misnomers. What's the reality of rehearsals? Like, talk to me about like the good points, the bad points. Guitar players, yeah.
So first thing to do, and that's very important to know, is you want to practice before the practice.
Ah, okay.
You don't want to waste anyone's time. Not only is everyone's time the most valuable, commodity you have, but also, sometimes you rent a rehearsal space, you're getting charged by the hour. It can be expensive depending on your situation, and also on the fact that you just don't want to be wasting time. So it's everyone's job really to know, what are we doing during this rehearsal? What needs to be known, whether it's for a specific show or a tour or in general, and to come prepared. It doesn't mean that if there's a mistake that everyone's just going to be down your throat, like, how did you not know this? But it frees up the time where you're not sitting there, everyone's not futzing around, listening, trying to learn a song in this valuable time. I talked about you when we did the first interview where I got lost.
The failed interview.
I've been doing a lot of ego work, and not necessarily what most people think of. Like, it's not like I'm walking around town thinking that I'm the greatest drummer ever and that I can do no wrong and just always patting myself on the back. But there does have to be a certain level of confidence that falls into that realm that you need. You need to hold yourself up high and realize that you've got this and that you can be confident in whatever you are doing. And the best way to be confident is to make sure that you are putting in the practice that is necessary, whatever that might be. Some people have, an hour a day. Some people like 8 hours a day. And if you can do an hour a day, I feel like you're doing something right. And when you break down how many hours you have in a day, trying to find an hour, or at the very least a half an hour, especially if you say that you love what you do and you're interested in it, is not hard. You know, I used to do this all the time when I was younger and I was taking lessons, and there were certain things I didn't want to learn, or I wanted to hang out with my friends, and I couldn't get to it. I had too many things to do for school or whatever it was, and typically it's BS. You can find a half an hour to an hour every day to work on your...
Okay. In rehearsals, I want to talk about volume levels. I feel like when I was in the rehearsing band, everyone had their volume turned up. I was like, everyone shut the up. We don't need to rehearse on 11. Like, everybody on 2, the drummer can play quietly. Let's just all hear each other. Is that how you rehearse, or like what do you guys have volume battles?
We try. I will not lie. Tom can be loud at times. And I mean, I also play drums, which used to be the excuse of like, well, I only have a certain volume. I can, as low as I can go, which to an extent is true. But at the end of the day, your instrument, if you don't play it, is quiet. And working on your technique and your dynamics is very important. I used to have terrible dynamics. I used to mostly be a heavy rock drummer. I started off like kind of playing, I know I said Sublime, but I kind of did like the alternative rock of the 90s and the, some would probably call it the third movement, but what I still view it as like the second movement, whatever, of punk rock, where there's not much dynamics. You're kind of just banging the hell out of the drums. But through years of practicing and following certain people, you learn techniques. And when I joined Ghostlight, it was very important when we were recording this album, because we met in the studio, played our first note, working on songs that we already were sent back and forth. We did our own time, private practice to get ready for recording. And the idea was, first off, we wanted to make a record that was, I don't know if you're familiar, I've only heard so much of his music as well, but we wanted Sufjan, I think I'm saying that right, Sufjan Stevens.
Yeah, no, I don't know,
we wanted a record if he were to make a Soundgarden record.
Oh, nice. Soundgarden's great.
We were going for a Soundgarden unplugged kind of vibe.
Wait, on your most recent album?
Yes.
Okay, that's very interesting.
So there's a lot of acoustic guitars, and my drums, no matter how big they might sound at times, I'm actually playing very quiet. In fact, I'm rarely playing with drumsticks. I'm actually playing with wooden dowels that are about this thin.
Really?
And playing as, pretty as soft as I can, because when you hit the drum soft, you get pure drum tone and not a lot of attack.
Right.
And then you can gain up the microphones to add the volume.
Right.
So that was the goal, was most of these songs were recorded live with very soft vocals so that the microphones wouldn't pick them up to then overdub vocals.
Right.
But the instruments were bass direct into an amp, 2 acoustic guitars, Holly on a piano, like an actual grand piano, and me on this drum set with wooden dowels with minimal microphones. Like, I think there were 2 microphones on the kick drum, one that was placed a little further back, and 2 overheads that were placed in specific ways that would capture the drum set in the way that we wanted. But that was it. It was very minimal, and trying to keep that quiet tone was the vibe for there. In rehearsal setting, the other thing you want to do is you're playing for a while. You don't want to have ear fatigue. If you're at a loud concert, you can feel like tinnitus, that like ringing, that A is not good for you. But it's physically draining, and the best way to not get tired and to save your energy as much as possible, especially in long rehearsals, is to try and keep things down as quiet as you possibly can.
All right. You hear that, folks? You hear that, folks?
You don't want to take away from your technique or from proper dynamics, but you don't want to go super loud. Another little trick to know is when you are playing and you are at your loudest, if you're at a volume knob, and 0, let's say, let's go 0 because it's completely quiet. 0 to 10. I know in Spinal Tap world they'll say 11, but it goes to 10. So you want to stay at 8.
Right.
Because if you need to go a little louder, you're not there, and this like jam's going longer, you have a little bit of headroom.
Right.
You want to stay in that zone.
You nailed it. You nailed one of my pet peeves about jam bands from when I was in the jam band scene is like they would use just their volume to create a jam, and then they'd peak out and they'd be there for a minute, and you'd be like, okay. But if you use your knowledge of theory and your camaraderie in the band and you work on dynamics and up and down and you leave yourself some headroom, it's so much better of an experience. And that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. This is great. And I had my second question and then it flew out the window. Oh no, I got it. Here's my.
Told you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. I had it. You know, a lot of people who watch StichMethod are appreciative of any guitarist or band they like, and they also some of them might just want to play in their house for a living or just do. Some of them might want to be in bands, and I guess it's an odd question. I don't even know how to phrase it, but like, in your opinion, where is the fine point between something becoming a hobby, like practicing wise? And we kind of talked about this, but like something going from a hobby to a job. And I know that you enjoy what you do, but you would have to say, hey, Scotty, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a drummer in this awesome band called Ghostlight. You know, that is my job. I'm lucky enough that my hobby became my job. But where in your mind did your hobby become a job? I'm not saying job a bad thing. I'm just saying, where in your mind, what kind of mind space can you keep people aware of what that shift is like?
Well, first off, there's obviously two things. There's probably more, but the two things I think of, and the first thing that really defined it is obviously financial success.
Okay.
Not rolling in it, you know, you're not a rock star, you're not making millions of dollars per se, but...
What, you're not?
You don't... Yeah, I am not, unfortunately.
Okay,
I do have a lovely place, though.
You do have a very nice place, yeah.
That's all that matters to me, is that, you know, my grandfather always said, if you've got food, clothing, shelter, and a little bit of money in your pocket, you're good.
We are successful. That's exactly. Continue.
Yes, people's line of success is different.
Continue.
But so there's that financial aspect of I no longer need to work a job.
Right.
Also, I view it as a job is something you do for money. A career is something that you do that you absolutely love and find joy in, that you're not going to rip your hair out working 8 hours a day or whatever it might be doing so. I think the biggest thing, and that I'm realizing now, that really separates it between a hobby and a job or a career is your intent.
Ooh, what do you mean?
What I mean is, if you're just going to play in bars, you know, let's say you're 21 or hopefully, and you want to go and you want to drink and you want to play music and everyone's having a good time, but you're not necessarily taking it as serious as you possibly could be. I know we've talked about before oversaturation of markets, various things. Unfortunately, when you get to a certain level, it is still a business. Business can suck the fun out of some things, but it's necessary in order to have stability and to do the best job that you can do. So I feel if your intent is pure and you are in it for all of the right reasons, which we don't have to go down the long list of right or wrong reasons, but if your intent is pure in it, I think that is almost as, if not more important than the financial aspect of what separates it from a job and hobby. Because I will say there are times, because it's a job and that I'll be out on the road for long periods of time, where I come home and as much as I love my instrument, I need a break from it.
Yeah.
Like, I've been in a van or you know, a tour bus, whatever it might be, for hours and hours. You know, and that's really the hardest thing about the job. Everyone says, you know, oh, well, you go and get to play music every night. Well, there's a lot of rehearsal involved. There's a lot of private practice involved. There's sitting in a van.
Yep.
There's the sound check, the breaking down, sometimes the lack of sleep.
Yeah.
It all is worth it for the hour to 2+ hours that I get to spend on stage, which is why if you're fortunate enough, hire a manager, because you don't want to deal with that. It's really uncomfortable. It's their job to be uncomfortable.
You want to show up and do it. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen, Scotty, I have to wind down here because I have to get going for not a rehearsal, but just finishing up a Celtic infused album that we're writing. And I can't thank you enough for being here. And I wish you and the whole band a lot of success. Hopefully I get a chance to see you live. I was talking to my wife about Jam Cruise. I think you're going to be on, and maybe I'll get a chance to actually shake your hand in person on that. But thank you so much, and I just want to let everyone know that who's watching this podcast or videocast. I think podcast like an Apple thing and YouTube. Anyway, I wanted to have Scott here. He's in the real world of it. He's doing it, and you're hearing him. You heard him talk about everything that we could possibly think of about the dynamics of a jam band. And if you're in a jam band, I feel like this is a good video to watch for advice. If you're thinking about getting a jam band, you get some tips from him. Just remember, the most important thing, and I hate to say this, is the drummer. So you got to find yourself a good drummer. And props to you for developing such skills and being awesome. I love listening to you. Go have a great week, and thanks for doing this again. And if the video doesn't come out, I'm not even going to tell you. I'm just going to release it in audio and then be like, sorry, dude. But anyway, go have a great week, and we'll hopefully speak soon, okay?
Thank you.
All right, take care.